The Ringing Cedars, Series 40, Anastasia, Book 1, Vladimir Megre. Who are you, Anastasia? The ship was expecting me. The captain and crew waited for orders. But I couldn't gather my thoughts to determine the further direction of the journey, so I made the decision to stay on the coast. To organize evening parties for the locals and organize the work around the exhibition of consumer goods and services. My thoughts were occupied with the events surrounding Anastasia. I bought a lot of scientific popular literature, books. Books about unusual phenomena and abilities of people, about the history of the Siberian region. I locked myself in the cabin trying to find an explanation in books. Among other things, I was also interested in whether the feeling of love could really have appeared in Anastasia because of the fact that, out of a desire to help the village girl, she exclaimed, "I love you, Vladimir." Why did the simple words that we utter, often without bringing enough valuable feelings into them, have an effect on Anastasia despite our age difference, despite the difference in views on life and lifestyle? Scientific popular literature did not provide answers. Then I took the Bible. And there you have it, the answer. At the beginning of St. John's sermon, it is said, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Anastasia, who did not know insincerity in deception, cannot just say words like that. I remembered her words. At that moment, I almost forgot that I can't say words so easily. Feelings, understanding, and the truth of natural information must be hidden behind them. Oh, God! How unlucky she was! Why did she address these words to me, not so young anymore, with a family, exposed to many harmful and dark things in our world? With her inner purity, she earned something completely different. But who can fall in love with her such an unusual way of life, thoughts and intellectual abilities? At first glance, she seems to be an ordinary, but unusually beautiful and attractive girl. But then when you start talking to her, she seems to become some kind of being that lives on the other side of the mind. It is possible that such feelings appeared in me because I do not have enough knowledge, understanding of the essence of our reality. Others might understand it differently. How unusual is the philosophy of her relationship to love, to organize an association of entrepreneurs in order to help them, to write a book with her advice to people. To transport people in the period of dark forces. And she believes. She is convinced that everything will happen that way. I promised her that I would try to organize an association of entrepreneurs and write a book. She will surely, now even more, fantasize. She may still use up the enormous energy of her soul and believe in the impossible. Judge for yourself. According to her words, she directs her ray towards man, illuminates him with invisible light, gives him her feelings, the desire for good, bright. No, just don't think that I interfere with the psyche, that I force the soul or reason. Man is free to take or accept. To the extent that he likes them, how close they are to his heart, how many such feelings he can receive in himself. That's how my grandfather and great-grandfather can do it, and I've always been able to do it too. My great-grandfather taught me this when he played with me as a child. But now my ray has become much stronger than in my grandfather and great-grandfather. Because that unusual feeling called love appeared in me. He is strong, even a little hot. There is so much of it, and I want to give it away. To whom, Anastasia? I asked. To you and to people, to everyone who can receive it. I want everyone to be well. When you start doing what I dreamed about, I will bring you many such people, and you will together. Remembering everything, imagining her, I instantly became aware that I would have to at least try to implement what she wanted, otherwise I would be tormented by doubts all my life and I would feel that I had betrayed Anastasia's fantasies. Although not entirely realistic, but desired by her with such passion. I made a decision for myself, and took the ship straight to Novosibirsk. I entrusted its unloading to the CEO of my company. I somehow explained to my wife and traveled to Moscow. I went to make Anastasia's wish come true, or at least try to make it come true. To be continued. A word from the author to the reader. Dear readers, thank you to all those who accepted Anastasia with kindness and understanding. I couldn't even imagine that she would really be able to evoke so much warmth and feelings. I would so like to answer all your letters myself, but at the moment I am physically unable to do so. I wrote the last lines of this book while I was in the Caucasus, where I was completing the research of the dolmen that Anastasia was talking about with local archaeologists and enthusiasts. I also found them together with local archaeologists. We saw it with our own eyes. Recorded. Dolmens, stone buildings. These are ancient stone buildings. They are 10,000 years old. They have their purpose for people living today. They are located in the south, in the Caucasus Mountains, not far from the cities of Novorossiysk, Galaxies, and Tuapse. They are the predecessors of the Egyptian pyramids. But the locals did not give them due respect, because they did not know what their purpose was. Dolmens were listed as historical monuments, even though the locals were demolishing them. They took away their tablets, they even built a church from them in memory of Baragovo, which, I think, is a great blasphemy. Maybe that's why 40 priests were brutally tortured in Kuban during our revolution, one for each dolmen plate. People were blowing these up without really knowing what they really are. Now that Anastasia has spoken about them, I think everything will change. It's unusual, but it's a fact, how much of what she said has already been confirmed. The local power grid even recorded the pulsation of energy radiation underground near the dolmen Anastasia is talking about, and compiled an official report. From everything she said and showed, I decided to publish only what will be confirmed by science, directly or indirectly, from real objects and historical facts. Although it seems to me more and more that it is still necessary to listen precisely with the heart, it will be faster that way. Because confirmation in another way takes a lot of time. Like, for example, with dolmens. Almost half a year passed while I collected historical materials, wandered around the mountains to see for myself their existence, and filmed. I convinced myself. And in the end, it turns out that I could have used those half a year for something else if I had believed right away. It turns out that a lot depends on the ability to believe. I managed to spend some time at Anastasia's place the second time. To see the son she gave birth to and the way she treats him. She treats him in an unusual way. I also managed to find out from the people who took me to the shore by boat, about the attempts of certain persons, individuals and groups, to penetrate to the place where Anastasia lives. Many certainly want to talk to her in good faith. But I also managed to find out from the people who drove me about how a group of hooligans, who were stationed on the coast, using a helicopter, took pictures of the end and wanted to catch her. She had to make her way out of the taiga to them, talk to them, and then force them to leave, even though they tried to overpower her physically. I will tell about it in another book. Please just, don't touch her. She should not be disturbed. Now, after these hooligans, local hunters shoot without warning at foreigners who appear in these areas of the taiga. Of course, that's not it, okay. I thought, let them shoot. The local hunters from the taiga seem to have known about its existence even before I did, only they didn't tell anyone about it. They themselves have never entered its territory. The locals talked to her only when she came to them alone. I started to have doubts about why I talked about her, and I didn't even cover up the ending, especially in the first edition of the book. I didn't change the surnames of the people or the name of the ship I traveled on. Anastasia made it a little easier for me by saying, nothing for that. I myself wanted to open up to all people. But now I get it. It was not necessary to state everything exactly. So I will try to be more careful in the future. I understand that many would like to talk to Anastasia. But she cannot meet and talk to everyone. Well, she also has a very small child. Citizens Association Anastasia, and the club operate in the city of Galaxies, Krasnodar region. It is headed by Larian's Valentina Terenchevna, an ethnographer with 30 years of experience who gathered around her local ethnographers and people from other professions, who did not neglect the spiritual heritage of their region and its problems. It is one of the first regional associations of citizens organized by the readers of the book Anastasia. Its members, in my opinion, made a very important discovery. Using the information provided by Anastasia, they restored to Russia, and perhaps to the world, the sanctuaries of our ancestors, abandoned to oblivion, and now they receive guests who want to visit them and organize trips to the places Anastasia spoke about. About Galenzik, Anastasia said, "This city could be richer than Jerusalem or Rome, but because its administrators have forgotten its original origins, this city is dying. I think that it is not the municipal administrators, but the souls of simple people who woke them up." Anastasia revived this, as well as other towns and villages. Many healers, preachers are now talking about Anastasia. To a large audience, he called Anastasia the ideal of a woman to strive for. I watched a videotape with a recording of a speech by the head of one of the religious denominations when he, in front of a large audience, called Anastasia the ideal of a woman to strive for. He said, "Her ability to draw conclusions, the level of logical reasoning generally exceeds the thinking level of a modern man." This cassette is now being duplicated and spread further. In approximately the same way, people of unusual abilities who live in India talk about her. Another head of one of the religious denominations stated that Anastasia is studying our lives today, but, unfortunately, she did not manage to meet the right man. Later I found out that on Earth, in Australia, there is another young man similar to Anastasia, and they will meet. I, of course, do not claim the role of a real man at all, it is even far from that. But maybe it's too early to ask her. And it should not be so idealized. It was the idealization of Anastasia that made it difficult to understand what she had done at the right moment. Just think calmly and sensibly about what happened. A child was born. Well, I held him in my arms, listened to his heartbeat. The child is eating. It grows. And there is no document, certificate of his birth. It will grow, it will want, for example, to travel somewhere, maybe across the border, to see the world. Who will issue him a passport for abroad? Whose country is he a citizen of? What to tell him then? Well, you know, it just so happened that they didn't think about your papers. And then it sits there in the taiga. I sought legal advice regarding the conviction. The lawyer said that Anastasia should have given birth in a hospital, then, regardless of the fact that she does not have a medical record, they would have issued her a birth certificate, on the basis of which we could make a certificate. There is another version, the lawyer said. The child can be transferred to a children's home. They will prepare documents for him. The children's home can do that. And then adopt him. But this version is somehow not close to my soul. I don't think Anastasia will agree to that either. And now what? When I mentioned the birth certificate to her, she said, "Of course, it would be good to have one. As in all people, so in my son." I missed that, I didn't think about it. But don't worry because everything will be fine. You notice, I missed that, I didn't think about it. It is entirely possible that she missed more, without thinking ahead, and is capable of doing so in the future. Therefore, you should not fully rely on the plans that she has worked out. I think that they should be carefully considered and somehow adapted to our reality. They also say that he is an unlucky entrepreneur. He cannot possibly publish enough copies of the book. That I can't for now. Because I have not sold the exclusive rights to publish the book to any publisher. I would not want anyone to have sole control of the manuscript and do whatever they want with the edition. With those I talk to, they think, the style should be changed a little to be more literary. In the current way, the notices and monologues of Anastasia are retracted from the book. They consider my speech outdated. They suggest a more catchy name, similar in some way to, In the Gap of the Taiga, Healer, Alien. But I don't think that Anastasia is from another planet, and I don't think she's in a gap in the taiga. She just wants to be human. Of course, I could defend my opinion with the publisher, using my copyright, but that would take a lot of time. Since funds are coming in from the sale of the previous edition, bypassing the publishers, I order the next one at the printing house. In this way, gradually there will be enough books. If someone wants to help under the condition of mutual benefit, feel free to do so, but without transferring the exclusive right. I also have to tell about certain circumstances regarding my relations with my family. The Moscow group dealing with the delivery of the book receives a lot of letters and calls regarding this issue. They complain that there is no clear response to calls and letters from the given home address. After returning from the expedition, I immediately left Novosibirsk. Further events will be told in the next book. Now I am aware that my company is failing. So there is no one there to answer. I will take on the work around her and renew it after I finish writing. I only talk to my wife on the phone. It is purely a personal conversation. However, I would like to ask those who write letters to apologize for the delay in replying and delivering copies of the book. Now my daughter Polina is there. We met. She will fix everything and something like this should not happen in the future. I talked a lot with my daughter, and she understands everything. Sometime later I intend to get a network phone, and then I will be able to talk more in person. I will certainly answer any letters I receive and, perhaps, post them. They are worth it. Readers' letters are about Russia, about love, about optimistic aspirations. They have the same energy. Thank you for such letters. Anastasia relates to healing in a special way. She believes that illness is a conversation between God and man. Illness can be a warning or salvation from something more terrible, and she showed me such cases. I will write about them later in the new book. I will try to convince her. Although she strongly stands by her opinion, claiming that only man, with his spirit and awareness, can heal himself from anything without negative consequences, interference from the side is often harmful. Regarding belief or disbelief in the existence of Anastasia, I will answer with the words of a man from one of the meetings with readers. He spoke loudly, "People. Into your hands came the exhilaration of creativity, kindled thought, call and idea. They are in your hands. What more would you want? Blood, urine and excrement for analysis. Can't you do without them? Well, the main and much bigger proof is already in your hands." I realize that for many Anastasia is not quite suitable, and they would like her to be gone. And it destroys many priority things of the world of technocracy, conditionality, and postulates. Because of the purity it radiates, you suddenly become aware of your own dirtiness, which we always don't want. Well, we want to see ourselves as good, smart and conscientious no matter what we do. Anastasia used to say, "I exist for them, for the one for whom I exist." It seemed to me that there was nothing special hidden in this statement. Who wants, let him believe. He who does not want, should not believe. However, I was wrong. Some read, and nothing happens to them. A strong feeling of love, kindness, and inspiration is born in their souls. And it pours into the world for the spring rain's sublime love poetry, the poetry of the soul, capable of receiving light, amplifying it and passing it on to others. These are those who feel it and know it exists. There are quite interesting phenomena, which Anastasia nevertheless initiated in our reality. First of all, I did not believe that she could really insert something into the text of the book. These circuits, rhythms, as she said, from the depths of eternity. But after the first edition of the book was published in 4,000 copies, the impossible happened. Such feelings and warmth appeared in many that verses poured forth at the same moment. Now there are already many of them. They are written simply by people, non-professional poets. There are so many verses that a separate collection can be published. In the Moscow group that is engaged in researching the phenomenon of Anastasia, they say that at no time in the past, including today in the world, was there either a personality or a character who could cause such a burst of poetry in such a short time. In the Bible it is said, how to distinguish between good and bad, a false prophet from one who brings the truth, judge them by their works. So if the aspirations of Anastasia cause such bright poetic feelings, then they are good works. I have classified the verses into several smaller groups, but it is in vain that we sometimes start to create divisions in society. The same heart beats in everyone. Among all categories there are people who sincerely strive towards light and goodness. And adversity. Surely everyone creates their own adversity. The End, the first book.